Welcome back to part 3 of my tutorial. As you can see, we've made some progress in the meantime. I've already placed some of the shrubs and the rocks on the map, but let's find out what changes have been made to the river and to the textures. So first of all, I ended up using the Argonaut water shader, which is similar to the one we've used in the previous video, but it's just a little cooler, and this is Anduin after all, so it fits. We're using additive blending, which helps the water stand out a bit. All those river areas will just show the flowing water instead of their own color, as you can probably notice the difference. Alright, one more thing I've done for the water is placing a water reflection box, which is this huge item. Trying to place it in the center of the map. You can find it in the skyboxes tab. This is extremely important to make the reflections show something. Take a look here. I've made the map.ini file. You can probably just do a new text document and then go and save it as, and that's it. Nothing too complicated. This is what I've added in the map.ini for now. There will be more. As you can see, we added some low level of detail, so when we'll place the trees, they'll show up for people who play on low or medium. And the water transparency, you need to select the right height for the reflection. So when you're looking at our ocean area, the water height is 98, so it is here. And obviously enable it. For the rocks, I've ended up using 3 of them, which is dark rock 5, this one and this one. They've just been placed near and on the hills, and the small ones in some places to make the map less boring, and obviously in the riverbed to give it some realism. Let me show you how the map looks in game at the moment. This is what it looks like with the reflection and the right settings. I've had to fiddle around with them a bit to get them to look good, but pretty nice, I'd say. This is where there will be an inn in the center of the map. And for each player, I've decided in the corner there will be a war glare. Let's purchase the crows on the fortress so we can see better. For the river, it is passable everywhere at the moment. but as you can see, if I am trying to move the builder on those rocks, he cannot walk there. So to fix that thing, we'll need to edit this object in the map ini to remove its geometry.
Fix that attitude of yours.
Take a look at the cliffs. Looks pretty nice to me. I like it. This is just floating a bit, maybe. I need to fix that. All around I'm happy with how it looks at the moment. We can move on to adding all the trees and the shrubs, which is something quite fun and not so difficult and long. Alright, let's fix those rocks. Where were them? Those ones, I think. Yep. Okay, using align to terrain. Not always very useful, but at the moment it is. Let's take a look at what shrubs I'm using. So apart from these rocks, I'm using two shrubs. One is this little bush, which I'm going to show you how I'm going to place it. Just place it randomly, but at somewhat even distances to each other. Try to give the feeling of a step a bit. That's enough. And now for the ferns, which is a bit more noticeable. Once again, just random placement. Just make it sure it covers a decent area. Alright, it looks fine to me. I've already added the rocks, same like that, but with one exception. You should try to place them on textures that fit with them. So as you can see, I've placed it on this dead grass instead of the green one. Doesn't look as good. It should blend with the texture. Let's place the creeps for now. Creeps can be found in the neutral tab, the work layer. You must be careful to use them on the player creeps team, otherwise they will be friendly and won't be able to be destroyed. Something like that. Okay, that's enough creeps for this map. I don't want it to be like Fortress of Eisen. Let's get the inn in place. Remember the map center? Well, make sure you pick faction neutral for the inn. and I'm going to try to place it as close as possible to the map center. But what matters most is the flag, which is found under Misc Man-Made. Make sure it's also neutral. And just place the flag near the building. It will eventually bind to the building. I don't like the angle. That's better, I think. I think I went a bit over the top with these textures here. So I'm going to hide the grass because it creates lag. Grass means trees and some of the shrubs, not all of them. Let's try and fix this problem here. Looks okay for me. Or maybe not. I don't want that much mud over there. Let's fix this real quick. There's some unblended tiles over here, but I wouldn't bother much with them since they're under the building. Looks okay. Right, let's move on to tree placement now. I've already decided which trees I'm going to use. Oh, and one thing, if you remember in the previous tutorial, I've been using this texture on the green patches, but I changed my mind and I found this one to use it, and it blends in nicely with the other one, this one. So that's how it looks at the moment. It's fine. Let's move on to the trees. Enable grass again. And once again you must decide which kind of tree is the dominant one in the map. I think it's going to be this one. So let's start it with it. What do you need to keep in mind for placing trees? You need to place them in patches, not randomly like the shrubs everywhere. You don't want the trees to be like everywhere, doesn't look very good. Usually patches of 3 for the dominant tree species are okay, in my opinion. Also try to avoid placing too many trees near the base of the player. it affects balance as well. You don't want elves to be hiding from minute 1 in trees. And you don't want lumber mills that are extremely close to the fortress. Looks okay. I want a bit more trees in near the work layers to feel like a dead end. Alright. I also want this area to be a bit more forested. Makes it look better. Doesn't make the map bland. Oh, also, you will probably want to place at least some trees on the cliffs. Otherwise, it looks empty and boring. Doesn't have to be a lot, just give it some thought. One thing to keep in mind about trees and the shrubs, you don't want to reach over 2000 of them both. If you see here in the bottom left corner, it tells you how many trees you have and how many shrubs you have. You should not have more than 1200 trees and not more than 800 shrubs. If you increase the limit above those numbers, you will be getting invisible trees, invisible shrubs. Maybe if you are using too many different types of objects, you might be getting weird crashes on World Builder. So don't abuse those trees and the shrubs. Keep in mind those numbers are alright for a map of this size, but I feel like they're quite small for a 600 feet map. So you'll have to be extra careful for placement of those trees. And especially the shrubs, which are easy to place a lot. Alright, now we have the basic tree placement. Now we're going to make it more interesting. We're going to be placing some of those in just some places. Don't go over the top because there's more trees I want to use. Just place from spot to spot, 1 or 2, no more. You can basically just do what you feel looks best. in this part of making a map. Enough for this tree. Let's pick up the next one, which is a larger one. You must be careful with this one, where you're going to place it. I tried to place the bigger one near the cliff edges. It has several advantages to doing that. First of all, it masks a bit the difference between the cliff and the grass, such as here. You can place them smartly to hide some imperfections. As you can see, I'm not abusing those trees at all, just placing it barely like 5 times in the place of a map, an area. I don't even want the big one in this part. I want it maybe here, maybe here, and here. Next tree. As I said, I want this area to be a bit more forested, so we're placing slightly more there. I don't like how that looks, so I'll screw it. Alright, the next tree. The next one looks similar, just giving more density in some places, such as here. I forgot about the inn. Alright, as you can see, the tree limit is quickly going up. There's already 350. Let's move on to the next tree, which is a small one. You can use this one kind of like a shrub, but keep in mind you don't want it everywhere, or else the elves will have a big advantage. At this point you can just zoom out and place it randomly. Since it's so small, you could probably add more of these on the cliffs as well. Let's do that to make it less bland. You should try to place it on the green patches on the cliffs. Looks a bit more realistic and blends in nicely. And now we have the unique trees, which is one dead, one from the Ethan Moors, which is on the other side of the mountains. We'll start with that one. You really don't want to place a lot of these, just place them in the interesting areas, one or two at most. Looks good here since it's a dead spot. Don't like that, too crowded. At this point it starts to be quite crowded already, so really not going over the top. I don't like how that looks there. Neither here. No, I don't like this tree very much. I think I'm going to scrap it. You can select similar, which selects all those objects on the map, and delete them. And now let's use this one, which is a reddish one. Makes the forest look a bit more fun. Not good there. Alright, now let's fix this area. We're going to be adding some more of those initial trees. And where was that spruce? There it is. Alright, looks fine to me. Now let's add the animals, which can be found in Misc Natural. I want to add some bears, one for each player side, I think. Just place them randomly, but don't spam those animals, because in the past I've had problems with them crashing the world builder and the game even. So really don't spam a lot of animals. Let's see if I'm going to use a boar, maybe one or two. One here and maybe the other one here. Going to be adding some crows in some of the areas. Just kinda randomly. I want maybe an elk too. Alright. And now some rabbits maybe in some places. Not a lot of them though. And let's get some wolves some places. That's enough. Alright, this was part 3. In the next part we're going to be covering the lighting, the minimap, and all those extra things that make the map polished. See you later.